Everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie. So today I wanted to touch on some things from Deuteronomy that I found interesting, that stood out to me. But first, I want to just kind of give like an overview of what Deuteronomy is. So in Deuteronomy, Moses is preparing the people to enter the promised land. And because they wandered around the wilderness for 40 years, the old generation had pretty much died, except for Joshua and Caleb. So Moses is reminding the people of the law and the expectations of God. So he's talking about things like adultery, disobedience, blessings of obedience, etc. So the essence of the law is, and this is from Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul? So the essence of the law is follow these commandments. Fear God, do everything that he expects you to do, and everything's going to be okay. You're not going to have to worry about, you know, the repercussions of your actions if you're following what it is that he wants you to do. So it largely consists of guidelines of behavior, consequences, expectations of leaders, kings, priests, the sacrifices, the offerings, all that kind of stuff. So the part of Deuteronomy that really stood out to me, that I really wanted to touch on, is going to be in chapter 28. And these are the curses of disobedience. So I went through, and the ones that stood out to me the most, that really caught my attention, are the ones that we're going to talk about. So, verse 32. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no strength in your hand. Verse 37. And you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among the nations where the Lord will drive you. Verse 41. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity. Verse 46. And they shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder, and on your descendants forever. Now, that's speaking of the enemies that God is going to send on them, for the disobedience. That, these enemies will be a sign and a wonder on your descendants forever. Verses 48 through 50. Therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom the Lord will send against you, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and in need of everything, and he will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. So, what people do we know that had iron put around their necks? The Lord will bring a nation against you from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies, a nation whose language you will not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which does not respect the elderly, nor show favor to the young. Verses 58 through 59. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this law that is written in the book, that you may fear this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, then the Lord will bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and prolonged plagues, and serious and prolonged sickness. So, what group of people do we know that certain diseases and sicknesses are only relevant to that particular group of people. So, one sickness that popped into my head was sickle cell anemia. All right, moving on. Verse 64. Then the Lord will scatter you among peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you shall serve other gods, whom neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. What people do we know that were scattered from one end of the earth to the other? So here are some things that are interesting to consider. So the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians until God delivered them. So once he, sent all these plagues, and, the Pharaoh's heart was, finally softened, and he's just like, look, take your people and go, right? So then in the process of this, it wasn't just the chosen people that God delivered. He also welcomed any Egyptians that wanted to follow him. They were allowed to go as well. And we do know that some Egyptians followed them. So in Genesis 2:7, it says, And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. So the interesting thing here is that he formed man of the dust of the ground. Okay? And we'll talk about that more in a minute. So another thing I wanted to point out was that Egyptians were well advanced in using colors. So the fact that they have darker skinned people as well as lighter skinned people is proof the colors used were not a mistake. Because not only do they have different shades of people on their drawings, but they have the colors green, the colors, red. And so obviously, they knew how to use color, basically. Okay. So the dust of the earth, and this goes back to the Genesis verse. The dust of the earth could be red or brown. There's been some speculation about it possibly being gray, but the thing to point out to me is that the likeliness that the dust man was created from was white. There's no evidence in the Bible that really supports that theory. And with the Egyptians, we have to consider the texture of their hair. And that's pretty much identical to the texture of the hair of black people. And then the next thing to consider is Moses and Joseph. Both of them were able to blend in with the Egyptians. And to me, the explanation is pretty simple. That they resembled each other in a lot of ways. They were probably all mixtures of shades of brown, and the texture of their hair had to have been similar enough to give them the ability to blend in. Okay? So, on the Egyptians, I just wanted to show just examples of some of their paintings. So here, this person is a little bit darker than these two, but this one is lighter than this one. And then we have some women here who are lighter. Um, I I wouldn't call this white, obviously, because this is white. This is white. They kind of look like they have more of a olive skin color more than anything else. And then the texture of this person, I mean, this, the color right here, that literally makes me think about brown dirt. I mean, just brown dirt. So, just in this picture alone, we can see the vast, you know, the vast colors of these people. They were all different colors, but their hair is all black. It's, consistent um, with black people's hair. And this right here, this is a study that I found of the texture of their hair in ancient Egypt. And it says it is generally accepted now that ancient Egyptians were indigenous Africans, saying them with black African ancestry, however, seems to be tougher for people to acknowledge by both scholars and the general public alike. Even Egyptologist Stuart Tyson Smith argues that Egyptologists have been strangely reluctant to admit that ancient Egyptians were rather dark-skinned Africans. Though a closer observation of ancient Egyptian art, we can find that many ancient Egyptians shared physical traits to black Africans, not just in skin color, but in hair texture as well. So, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because there are plenty of other people who have made videos that kind of go more into detail about this kind of stuff. But, I do think it's interesting to note, and, it's something that people need to be more open minded to, you know. And for whatever reason, there just seems to be like this community that just does not want to look at the facts. And in my opinion, based on what I've read in the Bible and what I've researched, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that these people, Adam and Eve, wasn't white. These chosen people of God were not white. These Egyptians were not white. They just weren't. I can't sit here and say exactly what color that they were, but I do feel strongly that they were different shades of brown. Just like today, we have light skinned black people, we have medium tone skinned black people, we have dark skinned black people. There's really a big variety of the shades that black people can be. And I think that all of that applies to this. I think that, again, given this painting made by the Egyptians, this is literally showing, at least 4 different shades of color just in one painting of the people. So that's just my opinion on it. I would love to hear your opinion and what you think. So just leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the video. Of course, let's keep it respectful. This is just my opinion, okay? So if you disagree, that's fine. You can still leave a comment and let me know why. Why do you disagree with that? What evidence do you have that proves a different theory? So Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the video.